So we're also really fortunate to have Gary's mother and brother here with us today. So welcome everybody, and I'd like to invite them to begin by saying a few words. So thank you for being with us today.
Right. Wow. I get a hand of who took improv with him, or psychology students.
Maybe ethics.
Ethics. What else?
A guidance counselor.
Nice. Wow. Gary was your guidance counselor. Wow.
And his office was right there. That was his office.
Hanging out in this room.
Well, it's amazing to see you all. Gary didn't have his own children, but you all played such a big part in his life, and you all experienced his love. So it's just wonderful and heartwarming to see you all take your time out to honor dear Gary. It's kind of, it's one of those things you can't describe. You have to kind of be there. You have to kind of know him to kind of know all of the magic and the humor and just his way of being. After he left here, he came down to Virginia and taught at a high school down there, and then he went back to school to get his master's in public administration, I believe it was. He worked for a company called the Bill of Rights Institute, and if they do have a series of podcasts that he put together back in 2020 before he died, and so it's a little way of getting to see him do some of his his personality comes through. But I'm sure you all have amazing memories, and I'm looking forward to hearing what your all's thoughts are. My mom is here also.
I just want to thank everybody. It's overwhelming. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're all I'm going to say a few words for Miss Osipova. Irene Osipova, if you remember her. She wasn't able to come, but she shared that, I believe she shared that office with Gary. And then I think Ari.
Mr. Updike.
And Mr. Updike and Ari Altman. These are
And
names
Miss Alfaro.
Yes. Oh, wow. We have the HSES historian here. Okay. I thought all this stuff.
He knows.
So I wanted to read some words from her, and then I'll say some words, and then Mr. Marks will speak and Ms. Chan, and then we will open the floor to anyone else who just wants to share some memories. So this is from Irina Osipova. I'm just going to read from it because I've not memorized it. Ladies and gentlemen, family, friends, and loved ones, today we gather to celebrate the life of someone who touched us all in profound ways. Someone who is not only a friend, but a mentor, a teacher, and a shining example of kindness. Gary Colletti was the kind of person who left an indelible mark on every life he touched. And though we mourn his loss, we also cherish the privilege of having known him. Gary and I started teaching together. In fact, we were hired a few days apart. It was a long time ago, but it feels like it was just yesterday. As all first-year teachers, we cried and laughed a lot and made ridiculous jokes about our chosen career paths. But his wasn't a career choice, it was a calling. As a teacher, he was exceptional. He didn't just teach, he inspired. His passion for teaching was contagious. He had the remarkable ability to make even the most complex concepts seem simple and accessible. But beyond the curriculum, he taught his students lessons that went far beyond textbooks: how to think critically, how to approach the world with curiosity, and how to treat others with respect and dignity. His students, many of whom are here today, carry his teachings with them in everything they do. But what made him truly special wasn't just his brilliance in the classroom, it was his wit, his humor, and his heart. And that's so true. He could brighten any room with his laughter. His jokes, sharp yet warm, always made the ordinary feel extraordinary. His humor wasn't just about making people laugh, it was about making others feel seen, understood, and lighthearted, even in difficult moments. was hard to read. Colletti was a poet at heart. His words had power. There was always a poetic quality to his thoughts. He understood the beauty of language, and he used it to connect with people on a deeper level, to inspire them to look at the world through a more thoughtful lens. As we reflect on his life today, I feel a tremendous sense of gratitude. Gratitude for knowing him and for the joy he brought into my life. So, let us honor Gary not with sorrow, but with celebration. Let us remember him for all that he was, a brilliant teacher, a funny and witty soul, a poet, and above all, a good and kind human being. Whew. We were truly fortunate to have known him, and his legacy will continue to inspire and guide us. And that's from Irina Osipova. And just so you know where she is today, she's the wow, this is big. She's the District Achievement Instructional Specialist, Office of Superintendent Michael Prayer. So that's from Dr. Miss Osipova, as I call her, right? Osipova. I'm gonna give this to you. Okay, I'll be brief because I'm standing here for a while. I was a first year teacher, came in here, was overwhelmed, didn't know, I'm looking at you all now, you're grown-ups, which is like crazy. That means I'm more of a grown-up. Okay, so I remember Osipova took me under her wing, and Colletti really took me under his wing. And this I'll always remember his advice to me. He said, okay, remember, you watched West Wing, right? I was like, of course. It's all, I'm a social studies teacher, teaching American history. Like, of course I did. He said, okay, great. You're ready for this job. He said he's like, just, you know how they're just always walking and talking and this is happening and putting out this fire and they're making a joke and this, and then something tragic happens, but then you're back to teaching and that's this job. And he's like, and if you know that's what this is, then you're gonna be fine. And he would always he made teaching fun, and he made it just seem so easy. Like, because I was a new teacher and I was all caught up in like, this is my lesson plan, and like I have to write, we used to write notes on the board, remember? Now we're like putting them on, and I would be like writing out my outline, and Gary would come, I'd be like, I don't know how to teach this, because at one point they had me teaching environmental law, because I okay, so I was like, well, okay, for a year, and I was like, Gary, like, what do I do? Like, because he had mock trial or something, I don't know. And remember that he did mock trial, and he's like, I got you. He's like, I'll help you out. He's like, I don't know why I'm not teaching it, but that was a whole other conversation. He's like, but I'll help you. He would just come in his free periods and be like, and I'd say like, I have to teach this thing. He'd be like, what is this? Oh, he got you. And he would just get up there, and it was just an art for him. It was just like, he just flowed into it, and then he'd sit down, and I'd look at him and be like, he just made it look so easy. Because like Osipova said, it was a calling for him. And I had and I'll finish here, I'm so happy now I was at a conference, walking around looking at all the booths. It was in DC, I think. And there was Gary he was manning the booth for the Bill of Rights Institute. And he was the same as ever. And again, he just, whatever he did, he just made it so fun, so easy. The most complicated concepts, he had it. He explained it in a way you were like, oh, right, that makes sense. And it was just an honor to be a new teacher under his wing here, and it's just an honor to see his family here and friends today, and all his former students, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Could you imagine what kind of fun he was?
I can't even imagine. It must have been unbelievable. He was a true.
He was one in a million.
He really was. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So I know Gary Colletti. I was putting up a bulletin board, and Gary, being very helpful, saw that I was struggling, not very tall, and he came by and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm making a bulletin board for my students. And then he said, let me help you. So we got into a conversation, and he's helping me with the bulletin board. We're talking about the students and teaching and everything like that. And before I knew it, everything was done. And I was like, this is very typical of Gary, because he's such a helpful person. He was also talking very extemporaneously and just very kind to everybody. So a lot of good memories, especially in this office between Shane was his good friend, and also Shane and Gary were inseparable. Two very different personalities in terms of teaching. Shane was like, as very calm, very, as the students today would say, chillaxed. very easygoing, and Gary was always go, 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 but they couldn't have made a better pair in this office. So I think that was very touching for many students to be able to come here and get two different personalities for one in this office, whether you needed a helpful person and a chatty person, or if you needed someone to calm you down at the end of the day. But a lot of good memories, and then just as a hallmark of our community here, so these are some flowers from the HSCS community.
It's all big room. Thank you, everybody.
So, obviously, I agree with everything that's been said so far, and I don't want to cover ground that's already been covered, so I'll talk about some other aspects of Mr. Colletti or Gary that haven't been touched upon yet. For one thing, like me, he was a philosophy major, which means he got asked all the time, well, what are you going to do with that? But somehow both of us found a way to turn it into an actual profession, which is not, not something that a lot of philosophy majors get to say, that we actually get to teach what we love. And he really showed his love for it. And what was said about how easily he could make anything simple, like I remember him explaining concepts like the synthetic a priori from Kantian ethics in Kantian epistemology to students, and they would be like arguing about it after class, right? Like that was the kind of ability he had to make even the most difficult concepts plain. And it's because of him and because the two of us working together that first year that we were here, that there is an ethics curriculum here at HSES that is still going strong all these years later, and that now has an advanced ethics course, which was kind of a dream that we had always talked about, like, oh, there should be a follow-up, it shouldn't just be one semester, and now we have that, and it's really his inspiration that kept that going. And then the other thing is all the after-school clubs. Like, I mean, he would hold court here or in the auditorium or somehow both at the same time. I don't know how he did it, but he seemed to be able to do that, and was doing like the improv club and like 5 or 6 other clubs. Like if it was a different day of the week, it was a different club. But that's why my nickname for him was always the King of Clubs. So I don't know where he found the energy, but he seemed to have like another gear or like an extra battery pack that like the rest of us didn't get when we were born. And that was, and so as I was saying to the family earlier, like even though we started the same year, I always felt like he was like, my mentor. Like he always felt like he was like 5 years ahead of me at least. And I feel like the last 26 years of my career have all been like trying to get to where Gary was on year one.
Oh my God.
So I'm so grateful, and I'm so grateful to all of you for being here. And we just like to open it up if anyone else has any remembrances that they'd like to share. So thank you all for coming.
Anybody else?
I'll go. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
Very good. I'm Louis. I'm from graduated in 2004, and I believe he was my guidance counselor because we met on the second floor. Like when you first come in to the left, there was a guidance counselor, right? See, I met with him one-on-one. He was like, "This is what you want to do. Go to Beam. Do this, do that." He had wonderful hair. And he had a good sense of humor. So that's the things I remember.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Anyone else? And you can just
Anybody
say.
else?
If you
Come
wanna
on.
speak from your chair, you can too. You don't have to get up.
I can speak for my chair. Hi.
Okay.
I'm Bridget. I am class of 02 and I also work here. But Gary became a teacher I want to say junior year of high school. And I had friends who had him and Shane Updike for various classes. And the King of Clubs is right. He took over coaching the mock trial and the moot court team. He started a speech and debate team. And he said we could all be vice president to look good on our college applications. And he was always present at every function, the band concert, the chorus concerts, the play, you name it, and he was there. And what I have my very visceral memory is I had, on September 11th, 2001, I was a senior in high school, and it was a weird day. It was a weird day to be a student. It was a weird day to be anywhere, and the community in this school really shone that day. But I remember they said, okay, well, some people, their parents are coming, so like maybe don't leave immediately, like stay till the end of the school day. But I was a senior, so I had a short schedule. So I rolled up into the 9th period freshman ethics class. And I sat there, and And I sat there often working on my college applications, but I sat there that day. And then we both, at the time Gary lived in Queens, we walked to the only train that was running, which was weirdly the 7 train, which doesn't normally run functionally in any capacity. We took the 7 train back to Queens, and they were just kind of like, are you okay? Is everybody okay? And that community really shone. And that senior year was a pivotal time for all of us former students. But it was a time where I really remember taking time to, be like, tell us about college, like, where should we go? And, he and Shane Updike were like, college is great, you're gonna have a great time. But I have these very happy memories. And then I remember communicating with him after he left New York and after he left teaching, and then somehow he was teaching again, and I said, what happened? He goes, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool teacher. Like, I can't leave it. It doesn't leave. And so, it's nice being back here and feeling that his presence never really left.
Yeah. Thank you.
I have a story about Gary Colletti. I never had him as a teacher, but there would be stories swirling around the school. This guy's so great. He does all these clubs. He does the mock trial, and so I said, let me give it a go. Let me do the mock trial. And everybody on the mock trial wanted to be the lawyer, and I said, I want to be the lawyer. And Gary said, I don't know about that, And he had a different plan for me. He made me the defendant, which was very tough. And I remember going to that contest and sitting on that witness stand and having to defend myself, and something came out of me and I freaking killed it. It was just like it's something different. But this story was very valuable to me because I recently had a situation in life where I needed to be in a similar position where I needed to defend myself, and I really recollected that experience. Like, that guy had a plan for me. He knew I wasn't meant to be the lawyer. He made me become this, the most miserable witness and like, he's actually helped me in life. And I think, this really shows you how the high school experience that we've had in this school, through people like Gary Colletti, has really helped us in life in many ways to build that confidence, because many of us came from backgrounds and families in the school which did not necessarily lend a lot of confidence in life, and the teachers, especially people like Gary Colletti, have helped us build that up. And help us prepare for life.
That's good.
I have 2 important memories. One was I was in Mr. Colletti's ethics class, I think in my senior year, and like our first class period, or I guess he asked us to bring in something personal to share with the class, in the next class. We spent the entire period like playing songs that were important to us, or reading poetry that were important to us, something that we felt represented us. And he took the time to really get to know his students and learn what was important to us. And the second thing is that I used to hang out in this office. I think it was like 5th period I had free or something, and I would come here. And I wasn't always sure where I fit in high school, but I knew that I belonged here in this room. He made it feel very welcoming and accepted all of us. So anyway, he was a wonderful person and a wonderful teacher, and he made a big impact.
I might have been assigned to his class at some point, but I never actually went to class. So I was a problem child in high school and spent most of my time in the hallway or the cafeteria or the lunchroom. My one story about Mr. Colletti is he found me crying in the hall one time, and spent the whole rest of the day, every time he saw me, still not in class, trying to convince me to go and just trying to make me feel better. He was very gentle and very kind, and he didn't know me from a hole in the wall because he wasn't really my teacher, but I remember how safe he made me feel that day that he found me just terrified in a corner having a panic attack for some random reason. But he was very kind to me, and I will always remember that.
Thank you.
I also had him in ethics, and of course, who doesn't remember his beautiful hair? But to me, I always compared him to Uncle Jesse, not Uncle Jesse, Uncle Joey, because he had that quirky personality. Every time you saw him, he was here, he was there, and you just couldn't keep up with him, but he was always making you laugh. And today I'm a teacher, so I also try to be that kind of person for my students. So that's just a big memory I remember from him.
Thank you.
I guess I've been debating this. So I had Mr. Colletti my senior year for psychology, and I remember the beginning of the school year, like his reputation preceded him. I remember once saying, I was talking to my father about him when I heard he had passed away, and I was like, I thought he was just a whirlwind who happened to be a teacher. It turns out he was more of a teacher who happened to be a whirlwind. And the next thing I knew, I had him for 2 weeks. I had all of a sudden joined the speech and debate team. I was helping out with moot court, and he was writing me a college recommendation letter. And I know that some of my teachers from back when I was here are in this room right now, but he said, and you all have inspired me still to this day, but he said things about me in that letter that I still don't necessarily believe are true, but it was some of the greatest things I had ever seen written about myself. And I just remember him saying, you could be anything, you can do anything. He wanted me to just speak more, be more confident, and now it's, let's just say, more than 20 years later. And I still use the lessons I got from him every day. I was joking with his family earlier when we walked in here. I did moot court with him, and now I'm an attorney. And I don't know if I should be thanking him or blaming him for that. But he was the best.
Again, how could I tell you how it was to be his mother?
Oh,
We are so sorry. I used to stand back in awe. Believe me. Well, most of them, really.
I'm sure there's a lot of you in him.
Most definitely.
Yes.
It was my pleasure. He never gave me 2 minutes problem. Never. I never had to do homework with him. He never gave me an ounce of problem.
Not saying, talking about you.
And his brother's the same. I was blessed, believe me. Really.
No, wonderful.
Did anyone else want to share recollection?
I'll say something else. I'm Mr. K, in case you don't know. I just argued with someone downstairs that I'm not Mr. K. It's Mr. K. I'm Mr. Z. Gary Colletti, my first year teaching here, wasn't in my department, social studies. I was English, 2002. He was just somebody who I got to know. I would see him at meetings or at, I don't think it was called PD back then, but we met in the auditorium sometimes for school-wide information or something. But he always, I saw him as someone, as a leader here, or as like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. This guy's a great teacher. And I'd find myself going to him and asking him about anything from where do you find this room, or what do you think about this? And even though I was the other department, he always had time to like help me out and show me around. And I got to know him pretty well, not extremely well, but I remember spending New Year's Eve of 2003, yes, with him. He was going out somewhere in the East Village where I was living at the time, and he invited me, and I said, sure, why not? And so I met him, and I actually spent New Year's, 11:59 to 12:05 or something with Gary Colletti in a bar in the freezing cold in the East Village, and it was, I'll always remember that. He just always made me feel welcome. And then a couple years later, he used to do improv club.
I'm so sorry.
So,
my phone just went off.
Oh, sorry. And he wasn't going to do it anymore. So he comes to me with this big book and he says, here, I'm giving this to you. I said, what's that? He said, that's the improv Bible. So I said, okay, why are you giving it to me? He says, because you're funny. I said, funny? I'm funny? I'm funny how? So he started to laugh. He got the joke there. And I just felt in a weird way, I didn't want to do it because I'm like, I don't know, I haven't done improv. He's like, I know you can do it, I'm trusting you with it. I've done it for a while. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I did it that year with this group of students, and it turned out to be like one of the most enriching, rewarding experiences I had as a teacher. And it led up to a magical performance with Miss Georgie DeFalco, who was another wonderful teacher. And it was a great experience, and I remember thanking him for it. And But yeah, just want to share that because it's somebody who I'm not a student, I'm a teacher, and I didn't work closely with him. It was only a short amount of time, but he's someone I'm always gonna remember. And
Do you still do improv?
no, I haven't done. He's every day in my class.
He's still. His brother started.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, I just want, because that's something I always do, I just wanted to share that. He really was a beautiful guy. I remember the sweater vest and the tie.
He was buried in
He's
the
like 110 pounds soaking wet. His hair and everything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that with you. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember buying every year for Christmas a sweater vest, a sweater vest.
Oh, wow.
He loved them. And pocket watches.
Oh, yeah, pocket watches. Yeah. Sweater vest. The sweater vest.
Yeah.
I have a really short one. Just something, because I did work with Gary for a while, but I remember my first year, first or second year teaching, and I thought I was pretty great. And and the kids, all loved me, and I was so influential. And he came in, and I was like, oh yeah, I got this. And he came and he talked to me, and he's like, hey, so let's talk about this certain student. I remember the student, but I don't want to say who it is. And I said, oh yeah, he's great for me. And he's like, well, if he's so great for you and you have such a great influence on him, he's like, can you get him to come to my class? And I was like, oh, like he kind of made me see that my program was a part of of everything. Like it wasn't just the music program when we were over here. Like this is like the whole child, and if they're doing really well in music, that's great. But like this kid wasn't coming to class, this kid wasn't succeeding. And it, please, if you do have influence on this kid, like try to get them to see their whole academics and their whole academic future. And he was admonishing me, but he did it in this way that was so funny, and it is always stuck with me. And I think about that all the time when I'm like, I have students even now that I'm like, oh, they're really good at music, and I'm like, but how are they doing everywhere else? And like, how can I help use my influence to help them succeed in like other areas? So that was my little Gary story. And the hair, yes, the hair.
So, speaking of the hair and the sweater vest, we think you might like the surprise that we have to unveil for you now. So, if you wouldn't mind, on behalf of the HSES Reunion Committee, we're going to.
Look at how well that's rigged up. Very impressive, guys. I love the binder clips. I'm not gonna lie. You guys film this. This is good. Wait.
It's kind of
This is so HSES.
Whoa, it broke.
Our improv show. I do love that very impromptu and exciting pose photo.
So now he'll be looking down on all the folks who meet in this room and all the places, all the students of HSES who call this home.
If you ever see the number 11, that's Gary.
That's Gary.
Truly. I see that 5 times a day.
Wow.
Because he knew 11 meant something to me.
Oh my God.
I see it, he sees it.
Huh.
So if you ever see 11 in the next few days, he's saying thank you.
I think I hit this one, right? Don't I hit this button right here?
Thank you, everybody. This is overwhelming. I mean, he deserves it. Trust me. But it's still overwhelming. I mean, after all these years, my goodness, he's still giving. He was the gift that always gave. Right? Always said that.
It's true. It's very true.
The gift that's giving. Yep. Oh, well, I can't thank you enough.
I wanted to just not take away nothing from Gary. Not take away anything from Gary. There was another teacher that we all know that passed maybe he wasn't as influential or whatever many years here, but Mr. Marr passed, and he was a math teacher, but played his ukulele. Was funny as Gary. Was as funny, silly.
Was he young?
They played
Not young. Not young.
Yeah, they.
We would have our teacher weekends, Mar and Colletti. We would have the sing-alongs with Gary singing and Mar playing the ukulele. Gary singing. Oh yeah. Don't.
So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah,
Share that love and remembrance.
They're all gone too soon.
John, don't I hit the bad one, right?